Walk quickly. Okay, I'm trying to do this live video. It's Lisa here at Packer's Kitchen and Bar, but my camera or my phone doesn't like the Wi-Fi, but I was trying to introduce you to our chef Romano. He is cutting up some chickens here and he's brining them. And why do we brine chickens, Romano?
Just so we can make the meat a little bit tenderer. We do a sugar and salt brine and water.
Sugar, salt, and water, and that makes it a little bit more tender, holds in the flavor. It's an excellent way if you're going to be barbecuing chicken. You always want to brine it first. So yeah, so I'm here back in Packer's Kitchen, and I'm just making my way through. Richard, you want to say hi?
Hello.
This is Richard. Richard has been with us for how long?
4 years now.
4 years, and he is one of our chief stewards here, and he keeps us in tip-top shape.
Yes, I do.
Yes, he does. Hi, Tracy. And this is Jeremy. Jeremy, say hi. Hey. So I'm just walking through our back of our kitchen. I'm going to head out to Devin. Hi, Tracy. This is our very first video on our brand new Packers Facebook page. I'm so excited. We have our own Facebook page. So be able to share specials and more up in the moment, last minute things with you. And we're able to just really showcase Packers as its own kind of entity here at Semiahmoo Resort. So we're gonna go over here, and there's Chef Devin.
Welcome.
So yeah, so it might be a bit of a quieter watch today just because we have a lot of people around setting up. We are gonna be doing our tableside service this weekend for the first time since this whole COVID thing. And Devin and I were very purposeful in waiting as long as we have. So we've been in phase 2 since June 5th?
Yeah,
since June 5th. So we've been able to do tableside this since June 5th, but we've decided we wanted to wait and see. We wanted to make sure that we absolutely could keep our team safe as well as keep our guests safe, because before it was just all about the experience, you know, and just wanted to give everyone a good experience, and we still do. But now safety and cleanliness is our #1 goal. And so Devin and I were like, you know, we know other people are doing it, but we just were not comfortable at the beginning just going, okay, we can do this, just to start doing it. We wanted to really consider everything, see what all the regulations were, make sure that we know we can keep our staff safe and our guests safe. And we feel very confident that we can do that and that we have been doing that. And so we're so excited to welcome you back for tableside service this weekend. We are taking reservations. It's 360-318-2090. So call and make your reservations. We have set time, limited space, because of course we're still, the tables are socially distanced and 6 feet apart from chair to chair, and no more than 5 people at a table. So we are following very, very closely the regulations that have been set out for us, and we're so excited to have you back. So welcome back. And so Devin, you want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're going to be doing something very summery. Actually, it was the last thing that we were going to do before we decided to take some breaks, a little hiatus for other reasons. And then we've been really busy trying to get this restaurant back open at the best capacity that we can. But today we're going to talk hamburgers. So before, the last one, what I was going to do was hamburgers for Father's Day. So I figured we'll do hamburgers for 4th of July. But we're going to grind our own meat, and I'm going to talk to you. It's going to be a very simple burger, but I'm going to talk to you about how and what the idea behind grinding, how to sear, and kind of the logistics behind the hamburger. So to begin with, we're going to grind our own meat. To do that, I like to have my meat like 3/4 the way, about half frozen. So a half to a quarter frozen, and so I'll freeze it most of the way and then let it thaw out and grind it practically, like I said, about half frozen. The other thing is that my meat grinder, I only ever use a metal meat grinder because you want it as cold as possible. That's all in the freezer as well. So we're going to pull our meat and our grinder out of the freezer. So like I said, I got our, this is actually chuck, large pieces of beef chuck that I just cut into small pieces. Again, what I'm looking for is a visual of about 20%, 20+% of fat compared to meat. So that's why I like to use a nice, heavily marbled, heavily fatted type of item. And then, chuck works great, rib roast, even short rib works really great for a time like this. has a lot of fat, and the heavier and thicker grained meats work really well because you're grinding it. So I keep everything that we have in the freezer so that I know that when I pull it out, it's nice and ready to go. So everything's ice cold. And then I also keep our grinding dies, which we're going to use we're going to use a large grinding die, and we're going to do it twice. So here's my small, medium. So what we're going to do is I've got my knife, and then I've got my largest grinding die. I keep them in cornstarch, so that way that it keeps the moisture off them, keeps them perfectly preserved in the cold, because there's a lot of moisture in your refrigeration that if you were to just put it in there, then these items can oxidize and rust really easily. Rust was what I was trying to
I was thinking it was rust, but I wasn't really sure. I'm just going to step over here and grab my beer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So
of
we're
course,
drinking beer.
We're doing beer with our burger. So.
Yeah, and I'm drinking a Kolsch, and you are drinking
Over there, I have
pale ale.
Yeah, I can't remember who it's from. Stemma. And so here I've got I'm putting together my die. One of the reasons why I like this particular grinder is because it actually has a front and a back to your die. And so you can see with the handle, and that you can't mix up the sides, because what happens is that over time your die will actually create grooves with this metal cutter. This is the knife, this is the die. And so what you want is you don't want to ever have to like swap it and develop new grooves. That's just more metal, that's more wearing down. Plus you don't get a sharp, clean cut, and that's what you're looking for. So here we are, again, blade, sharp metal blade. This is going to be pointed out against that die. So here we go. And again, there's a little notch at the bottom. We make sure that's in place. Now, another point with making burger is that it's like similar items that we've talked about before, where I prefer to have a hand feel and that have a textural feel to everything. And so like making sushi, things like that, really feeling the sushi rice, I like to feel it with my hands to really kind of get an aspect of it. Now, making burger is something that I don't want to touch with my hands, because the more I handle it, the more I incorporate oils off my hand, it breaks down the meat and will actually make it a little mealy. That's another reason why I also don't season it, and another reason why this is my preferred method of making hamburgers is grind to order. It is nothing, there's nothing comparable to it. The air that's left in the burger itself, because of the fresh grinding without compressing it out, means that there's a lot more moisture opportunities, so the moisture doesn't just cook out, it cooks in and stays in. The juiciness and everything will just be incredible if you do it this way. So I've got my grinder set up, I've got it nice and tight. I turn it on. I got forward and reverse, so I turn it on real quick just to make sure that everything is actually as tight as it can be. Then I take my beef here, and I'm going to put it through our grinder. And the trick with a good ground beef is to be ground twice on your largest die that you have. So we'll start with our first round through. And a little bit of cornstarch comes out, but it doesn't hurt anything too much to have a little cornstarch. It's a pretty benign product, and the very least it'll do is just to add a little bit of combination to it and actually hold the meat together better. So we go through, and like I said, I'm using, what I have is still about half frozen as far as our meat goes. So it grinds the best, it creates the nicest cut with the meat. And what you're looking for is you're looking for a cut and a breakdown. You're not looking for it to extrude. So if it starts coming out in one spot, either towards the middle or towards the outside, that means that typically a lot of times that means you're extruding. That means that your blade isn't touching the grinding die directly, and you're just pushing it through like spaghetti, and that's not what you want. This is not a pasta extruder, it's a grinder. And so it will cut and chop when you put through it, and that's what you're looking for.
So would you do this same process with like lamb or bison?
Absolutely, yep. And again, the ideal, it's a personal preference, but the ideal, in my opinion, is 20% or more fat. You're gonna have a lot of cook-off and a lot of shrinkage because of that fat, but like I learned in school, fat equals flavor, period. The more fat you can incorporate into something, the more flavor you can get, especially if it's the fat of what you're dealing with. And so lamb fat is incredible, and so if I'm cutting and breaking down and grinding lamb, I'll use that fat. If I'm using something lean and it needs a little extra beef, you can always add beef fat, but I have added pork fat to other burgers. To actually like a duck burger, I would add a little pork fat to it, just simply because it doesn't have, it doesn't, and the as good of flavor as the duck fat is, it has a tendency to melt away and get a little greasy. Meanwhile, pork fat has the tendency to have the great soft milky texture, especially after it's been cured a little bit.
Right.
So here we go, we've got our first grind. Now we go back in for our second grind. And all this does is it combines everything and makes it kind of one homogeneous. And right now it would be actually difficult to kind of put into a ball. But now with it ground like this, we'll be able to do it pretty easily. All right. So I'm just going to grind enough so that we can get this in the oven and get the little burger going. So now you can tell the difference.
The color difference.
Color
right?
difference.
So it's a little pinker.
So it's a little bit lighter color, and the reason is because that fat has emulsified in. So in like other projects where I'm whisking things, or I can't remember which one it was, but we were making something that the color changed pretty dramatically, and that was because the emulsification of the fat. And so like a vinaigrette or something else, when you add that fat, you will actually see the color change because of the combination of the oil and water. It will completely, not only does it change color, but that's also indication that it's going to change mouth texture and feeling and everything. So here we are, we got enough for a burger. I'm going to do about a half a pound burger, 8-ounce burger. To me, that's about the size of a baseball, and I've made quite a few of these, so I got a pretty good idea of what a 8-ounce burger looks like. So this is a nice half-pound burger. I worked places where we smashed it with a can, got it nice and flat, vacuum sealed it, pressed it hard. You don't want to press it, you don't want to touch it, you want to touch it with the least amount of gloves as possible, or with the least amount of oils from your hand, and temperature. So we're going, this is pretty cold. I got a hot plate in there, we're going right on that hot plate. Now I'm pressing it a little bit, but I'm not going overboard. I don't want to press it too much because I don't want to get rid of that air that's in between. So the air that we develop through this grinding, and right now, if we lose that, we kind of lose the greatness of doing this all in this kind of procedure. So the other thing that I like to do, because it's beef and it has a tendency, especially after this, grinding like this, beef has and muscle has memory. And so it will retract and kind of go back to its stressful point. And so even though we've ground it and it's as small as possible, it still will shrink up. And so what I'm going to do is I like to do a little kind of thumb imprint in the middle. Now, you might think that this little tiny imprint, which is going to be smaller there, is going to not allow me to get a good temperature on the burger, but it will, because immediately the first thing that's going to do is it's going to shrink up. The other thing that this does is it allows it to not baseball and balloon up, and so I can add cheese. And if I wanted to add cheese on a round product, it's hard, it all falls off. So you do a little, just kind of even just a little thumb imprint in the middle, and like I said, you won't be able to see it when it goes in there. So we're going to go over here, and I have our hot plate in the oven. Now, I personally prefer, just like school, one of the things I was taught was fat equals flavor, black equals bitter. So what we don't want is we don't necessarily want dark black grill marks. I personally prefer to have a burger griddled. And so we've changed, and here at Packers and up at the Great Blue Heron, we griddle our burgers and we put them on our flat top, which again cooks in its own fat. Has the flavor and texture and the moisture reintegrated into it instead of dripping off. Dry burgers come off of grills, burnt bitter burgers come off of grills. The most flavor comes off of a flat top. I did have a cook once say that you can't cook a burger on a flat top and it doesn't turn out as well as a grill. but something tells me McDonald's has done well, and they make it on a flat top.
Take that.
So, and I don't eat McDonald's burgers,
No.
but I know they've been successful with them,
Yeah.
apparently.
Me neither. I cannot get over. They're gross.
So the other thing I do is never ever season the meat ahead of time. It will make it mealy. You want to season it immediately before it goes on the grill. I'm using a little bit of smoked salt just because I love the flavor, and I'm also going to have some smoked cheddar that goes on it. So we're starting with this, and you might think that that's a lot of salt. That's our pure salt. But a lot of it is going to cook off, pull up, and stick to that griddle. And so you want to add more than what you're actually going to cook with. So here we go.
Okay, so I bought these salts when I was in Hawaii the last time, and I bought, you know, they have those tubes at the little, whatever that grocery store is or
Yeah.
whatever, and I put it on my meat before I grilled it, but it was on my ribs.
Yeah.
It was so salty.
That taste the salt. Taste the
Sorry.
salt itself because it can be very salty. So there's different levels of salt. Kosher salt is less has a less saline and less salty flavor than iodized table salt. And then some of these specialty salts you have to be careful because they do have a different salinity and they will actually taste a lot saltier. That's one of the reasons why I like the light sea salts like Maldon and the others. Another one of my favorites, which I haven't used in quite a while, is Murray River pink salt. And the reason behind that is that it's got great texture. It looks really cool. It's nice and pink. It's pink and it has the minerality similar to Himalaya pink. It's really good for you. But it also has a very light salt texture. So you can add salt, feel the texture, taste the salt, but it's not over the salt. You can add more over time.
Yeah.
And so you can always add more, but you can't take away.
Can't take it away. I kind of
You kind of can if you're making soup. You can add more. You
Yeah.
can throw a potato in, but that's not always the case.
No, not with ribs. I had to peel it off.
Yeah.
It was really
Extra
salty.
sauce,
It
yeah.
was a little salty.
All right, so we got our burger going here. So I'm just going to free it up a little bit so it continues to brown nicely, and then I'm going to push it back in our oven. I've got over here, I'm going to get some. I've got a Avenue burger bun, which we use from Avenue Bakery, local bakery here. I've got that, and I'm actually going to put a little bit of this Kewpie mayo on it, which is the Japanese mayo that we use a lot. I use it for the borioshi, sushi, and a couple other things. Fantastic mayo. It's a little bit eggy, got a nice, great texture to it. So I'm actually going to use this, and this is what we're going to use instead of butter to brown. And what it does is the difference between butter. Whole butter does have you know, it's an emulsification as well, and so it has some water in it. So you're not just adding oil to this and crisping off the bread. You're actually adding moisture when you add mayo or butter. And so I'm going to use a little bit of this mayo.
So I've heard that the best grilled cheese sandwiches are made with mayo instead of butter.
Oh, absolutely.
True or false?
Yeah,
True?
well, so what it does is you add butter, and it doesn't have a whole lot of flavor. Mayo has not only egg, which will cook and make it crispy, but then it's got the vinegar, the other seasonings in it, and so you're actually adding something with a lot more flavor than just butter. Butter will brown it nicely, but mayo will actually add flavor to it, and it creates a different type of crust. It creates a crust that's almost like, you know, a quarter inch, if not thicker, of kind of a penetration that makes a garlic ready kind of crust to the top of it instead of just a nice single layer of brown. So here we go. We got our nice mayo on our bun. I'm going to put this on the side here of our hot plate. And so actually at home for a wedding gift, a really great friend of my wife and I gave us a large Como cooking steel. And so I've actually put that on my grill at home, and that's what I use on my grill. I basically have a plancha at home, and if I want, I can remove that and use the grill. I haven't since I've done that. The plancha works great. The flavorings are there. It's really well seasoned. And like I said, I'm not looking to add black burnt carbon to the flavor of my food. So here we are. We're going to add a little bit of that salt on there. I'm going to wipe that off. We're going to brown our burger bun here. I think we're about ready to flip our burger. And then we're going to add some Tillamook smoked cheddar to our burger. So again, take a look at the nice. So that's brown. That's not black. Black is bitter. Brown is developing sugars and a great flavor. So that's what we're looking to develop.
So
I'll
now,
go back in.
so now let's talk just for a second about the Canadians. So the Canadians, I'm a Canadian, as you guys all know. Eh? You had no idea? No idea, eh? No doubt about it, eh? So anyways, we do not cook our burgers to temp, but down in the States they do. So do you know anything of the history about that? Or?
Yeah, so for us, I was living in the Seattle area and actually the east side, and went to high school with people that were affected by the E. coli back in the early 90s, I believe. And I remember it being a very big temperature orientated. After that, I worked in my first restaurant in 1995, and when I was there, that's when they started to put in the regulations of, you can't serve a rare burger. The most we were allowed to do was a medium, and so we could only do 140. Actually, we had to do 155 was the minimum temperature that we could serve. So that's medium to medium well. And we've let off on that a little bit. The health department actually has pretty strict guidelines of if you want to cook your burger under 140 degrees and you want to cook it to say like rare at 125 or 130, you can do that, but it has to stay at that temperature for 2 to 5 minutes, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but there is a very specific time frame for the burgers that you can. So you can do it. Health department will let you, and we do it here, but we follow the very strict health department guidelines. And we don't typically do rare and those unders that we would have to like cook it to 125 or 130 and let it sit for 5 minutes before we put it on a plate. That's one of the ways that you can do it. It's also just a traditional thing that we've in the States have done, cook burgers to temperature. So we do several different types of burgers here. We have a 1/3 pound burger and a 1/2 pound burger. 1/3 pound burger is very thin. We don't take temperatures on that. We just cook it through, but not over and dry it out. But our 1/2 pound burgers, which is similar to this, we can get a temperature on. We can do a medium rare. I wouldn't suggest rare going under. Our burgers are great. They're good. They're wonderful American Kobe beef. But again, it's a personal preference, and everything has to be cooked to 155 for service. Anything under that can be cooked to a temperature, but it has to be hot held for a certain time to be able to serve it that way. All right, so here we are back to our grill. Now again, I've got nice browning on our bun. So like I said, when I'm using the mayo, what I'm getting is a lot deeper, and again, I'm getting brown. I'm not getting black. And that's the whole point, is that you want brown is flavor, black is burnt, and that's carbon. Carbon doesn't taste good, and it causes cancer, let's be honest.
Yeah, not good for you.
Yeah. So here we are. We've got our burger. I think we're ready.
Sweet. So yeah, so ground beef, when it goes through the grinder, that is the higher chance of having the listeria, because if it's not cleaned properly, that's when the bacteria gets into there.
It's the grinding of the meat, basically putting outside meat to interior meat. So if you have a whole piece of product like a steak and you cook and sear the outside, that outside went way above 140, way above 165, way above probably 300 degrees. Now anything out there with E. coli and stuff like that won't live, so you're totally fine. But once you grind it and fold it in on top of itself, that's when it gets potentially hazardous.
Exactly.
So here we are, we have our burger. Smoked Tillamook cheddar. We use fermented black garlic aioli. Fermented black garlic, which has an amazing umami flavor, and it's great with not only seafood but with burgers and everything else, is a garlic that is aged in you can make it in a crock pot. I think it takes about 2 weeks to make in a crock pot. You literally take whole cloves of garlic, put it in one of the lowest temperatures, and let it sit in your crock pot for about 2 weeks, and then you have a black. It is jet black, dark, and that what it does is it actually ferments and creates this really unique, thick umami flavor. So it's just a wonderful, fun flavor that works really well with lots of different types of meats. All right, so here we go. Let's see what temperature our burger is. So
Perfect.
that's a nice medium rare. So you can see the moisture just pouring out of it. You can see how much air there was in the bubbles and the area in there, and you can see all that moisture. And you can also take a look over here and see how little moisture came off of this. What you're seeing is some fat and some cheese, but you're not seeing a tremendous amount of moisture. That means that all that moisture in the beef was held in that burger. The other thing that you're not seeing here either there's a tremendous amount of blood running out of it. And so what we've done is I've done the best I could to keep all the moisture in that burn. And there you go. If you have any questions about how to do it, I will jump on right after this and take a look at any of your comments and try to answer anything the best I can. But thanks for joining. Welcome back, and I hope to see you down here at Packers eventually. And no worries. And welcome to the Packers homepage. So please pay attention to this page for upcoming specials, events, and other things that we'll be having out of Packers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all our Canadians. Happy Canada Day for yesterday, and happy 4th this coming Saturday. We're really excited to have, we have a lot of guests coming in, and we are not doing fireworks. We are not doing a big thing here. We don't want to encourage really large crowds. But we do have our first wedding, only 10 people, but we're so excited to have them come and that they chose to have their wedding here at Semiahmoo. We're so excited. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure that you share this, especially with the new page. And thank you guys so much, and cheers.
Thank you.